Good evening, Libertarians. My name is Dan Fishman. I am the Executive Director of the Libertarian Party, and it is my pleasure to welcome you back to another episode of Libertarians at Large, featuring our at-large Libertarians, Erik Raudsep from North Carolina.
Hey, how's everyone doing?
Dr. Laura Ebke from Nebraska.
Nebraska, yes.
Nebraska. It's too many NEs, because we also have Valerie Sarwark from NE Hampshire, New Hampshire.
Hey.
Yep, any Hampshire, I guess, includes Hampshire, England. However, so guys, tell me, who had an exciting week for liberty? Because there's all sorts of stuff that's happening in the news. Anything any of you guys want to report, talk about?
Well, I'll start. I had some great conversations this week with our new Libertarian state rep in Wyoming, Marshall Burt. Sounds like he's ready to get on the show, on the road to, passing some great legislation. So, we were talking a little bit about what kinds of things he should be looking at. So, I'm really excited with what's going on out there. That's about the most exciting thing I can report.
Well, that's pretty exciting. And one of the interesting things about that is that, a lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to get elected and then I can know exactly how government's going to work. And it's not like that. You really have to learn how the legislative body that you've been elected to. You want to talk about that a little bit, Dr. Ebke?
Well, for sure. I mean, when you first get elected, you don't really realize, how difficult it is. It's interesting that the fellow who beat me in 2018 ran into him up in the lobby of the Capitol one day, and he says, Laura, he says, you don't realize just how hard it is and how difficult it is to get things done, do you? And I just kind of laugh because nope, you don't. That's exactly the case. The first year that you're there, the first session that you're there, you figure out how the process actually works. And so, I think that Representative-elect Burt is getting a foot up on things. He's got folks out there who are helping him come up with legislation. He's got folks who are, kind of walking him through the process. And, he talked to me. So there you
go. That's pretty much par for the course in terms of, we want everybody to succeed. And so he's talked to the last elected Libertarian in terms of somebody in the State House. And I'm glad that we have a bench that can help train him up like that. Valerie, how about you? Anything exciting for Liberty? Besides karaoke, which is about as libertarian as it gets.
Yeah, right. No, I just think now the election's, what day is it? A week later, now everybody's ready to focus on ballot access and voter registration drives. And so it starts over again. Is that exciting? Is it glamorous? No, not really, but it is what it is. So that's where we're at.
Well, so it's interesting. We have 30 states in which we have ballot access right now. Mm-hmm. And then we have, I want to say it's 8 or 9 states in which we have the option to, we can get ballot access through the 2022 election. So we're looking at all the states that are out there, but there's a couple of heavy lifts ahead of us. Mm-hmm. Ohio. Mm-hmm. Ohio is 8 billion signatures. You have to get one from every person on the planet, notarized.
And they have to be registered Libertarian.
And they have to be registered Libertarians. So that's a big, heavy lift. And so you're right, turning that around right now is something that really makes a big difference. On the other hand, we are more energized now. It's a really interesting thing to see. So for me, sitting at headquarters, we actually just had a phenomenal week of new members. People who came in after the election who are like, oh my God, I can't believe how terribly the election turned out. Which, where were you 2 weeks ago? What did you think was going to happen? I know that we're technically in the Christmas season now, so it's okay to say it. Did people think Santa was going to bring a better candidate? There's no explanation for the people who are like, I can't believe how bad it turned out.
Well, Dan, let's be honest. Libertarians are politically clairvoyant individuals. And the reason I say this is because we see things that are coming down the pike with such clarity. I mean, you look at what happened just this, on election day over in Oregon, and we've been talking about ending the drug war since the 70s. We knew that this was going to be an absolute crap show of a political season, and it played exactly how we thought it was going to play. So, I've come to the strong belief that libertarians are just politically clairvoyant.
I mean, you're right. If you think of the number of huge issues that we've been out in front on, right? I mean, like right now, right? What's one of the biggest issues in the country? School choice. Yeah. Libertarians have been out in front of school choice for, almost since our inception. I don't know that it was in the initial, it wasn't in the initial statement of principles, but I think it was in the platform almost immediately. Marriage equality, right? That was day one. Legalizing cannabis. Nobody really talk. I'm probably one of the 5 people in the Libertarian Party who appreciates our advocacy for sports gambling, but that's coming to pass too, right? That's now been legalized across the country. So those are really good things, and I think that the country really is sort of waking up right now, and I think it's interesting too. The Jorgensen campaign, there was a lot of people that the enthusiasm level of her supporters was so high that these people are all now like, we can't let it end here. We have to do more. And, considering that she had on her campaign, 75% of the volunteers were not registered libertarians. They were not members of the Libertarian Party. They were people who were independents or Republicans or Democrats who came to us. And, that's one of the things about it is that when you rub shoulders with a libertarian, some of it rubs off, right? I mean, we convert people just by being around them. Erik, I haven't come to you. Go ahead, Laura.
Well, I was just going to tell you, as one who is compared to some, a relatively recent convert, it's been a little over 4 years since I converted. People need to understand that everybody is not going to be, right there from day one. But you're right that rubbing shoulders with other libertarians, being around other libertarians, you start to take on, if that's your natural inclination anyhow, you start taking on some additional views of libertarians. So, Eve, if you're thinking of changing parties to libertarian, do, because you won't regret it.
That's an outstanding thing. Is that I think. Gary Johnson had this thing that he said in 2016 where he said, be libertarian with me one time. And at first I was like, not just one, Gary, one of them. And then I realized when you come on board, so few people after getting to know our party and our platform say, oh yeah, no, I want to go back to big government. That's what I'm interested in. And Erik, I didn't get a chance to ask you how your exciting week for liberty was. Anything you want to report or?
Yeah, absolutely. Joe Bishop Henchman has started the wonderful practice of the chair advisory committees, and I'm the chair of the social media and marketing. And we're coming forward with a really expansive social media policy for employees and for volunteers that are going to be handling the social media accounts. There's a million and one things other that we're doing within there. And now that we've been, our labor hours have really been freed up with no longer being in the campaign season. We've really hit the ground running with this. And I really look forward to seeing what we can accomplish as a team.
That is pretty exciting. Now, you guys are putting this together. Is there going to be like a public document at some point in time, or?
Oh, yeah, once everything's past the very rough stage, we're even going to release it for public opinion and public feedback even before we vote on it, just to kind of make sure that we're all that we have the ideas the best flushed out. And because we're a bottom-up organization, what better way to flush things out than going to the people that are the party? So that's kind of the direction that we're going to be heading in.
That's a great thing. It's interesting. people talk about social media and libertarians and how we have sort of have a wide variety of people on social media. But the official social media is something that, has been tightly held and regulated. And so having the LNC come in and sort of establish a group and principles, that's going to be a huge win for us going forward.
Well, and that was kind of the thing that we sat down and we started looking, and we wanted to create, just kind of a template or speaking points that could be easily utilized. And then we realized that we have very loose guidelines and some over here, and we've got other guidelines over here. And there's nothing that's, coalesced into a single statement that is effective. And that's kind of why we kind of rewound, and now we're pushing forward again. So sometimes you gotta take that zoom lens and take it all the way back and get the big picture, so you can get back into the nitty gritty and the minutia of everything. So yeah, no, it's really exciting what's going to be coming forward.
All right. Well, I think everybody is excited to hear that. And I think people are excited for us to start answering some news quiz questions.
Uh-oh.
It's
boy.
best favorite time of the year. Audience members, remember that when we get stumped, we're counting on you to help us out. All right, question number 1. A White House memo warned that we are entering the most concerning and most deadly phase of this pandemic. Who wrote this message? Was it Dr. Scott Atlas, Dr. Deborah Birx, Dr. Anthony Fauci, or Dr. Robert Redfield? I only know Birx and Fauci.
Same.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's got to be one of the two of those.
Well, if it's Dr. Scott Atlas, I hope he shrugged while making that announcement. I'll be here all week.
That sounded like a fake.
Wow, how often do you see an Ayn Rand joke? I mean, come on.
All right, so Fauci's out of favor.
It's Birx.
All
Yeah.
right.
I'm 99% sure.
All right. That's
Good
betting
job.
money.
We need beepers or buzzers or something, so
Oh,
we can buzz in.
we could do something like that.
I don't
We'd
know
have to double the budget of the show, which is currently zero. But Dr. Birx, the White House coronavirus response coordinator, delivered a stark private warning on Monday, telling the administration officials the pandemic was entering a new and deadly phase. It's interesting. Cases are going up. I know more libertarians who have it now than I have in the previous 6 months of the pandemic. I don't know if that's corona fatigue, if it's the spread, I don't know exactly what the deal is. If it's election parties, all of those things I think contributed. But have you guys seen any cases in your immediate group in the last 2 weeks?
My neighbors across the street have it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in a hot spot here in Nebraska, and I think a lot of places are really heating up, and part of it is the weather's changed and people are inside more, and there's COVID fatigue. People are just getting tired of dealing with
Right.
it and just saying, screw it, we're going to go out and do whatever and not worry about it. But the hospitals are filling up in our part of the world to the point where, the governor has put out a call for people who are recently, who have been nurses before, come
Wow.
back, and we're going to go ahead and license, give you a temporary license so that you can come help. I don't know that he's getting any response. But,
Right.
They're trying.
Right. I know they did that in Boston during the first stretch where they essentially said, retired personnel, we'd like you to come back. And I don't remember if it was Nebraska. I know Iowa's also blowing up right now. And they put out a pretty interesting ad asking for nurses coming from anywhere and offering them a tremendous amount of money. Not a tremendous amount of money, but a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, it is interesting to see how that works. Can you guys still hear me? I see my camera just said.
We can
that it
hear
worked.
you.
All right, let's see if I can fix that. Well, the easiest fix is to...
Ta-da!
That's good. I'm not sure what happened. It makes me nervous with technology. Let's go to some more questions.
Okay.
All right. Question number 2. The leader of which country began a sweeping military operation against one of his own regions? Is it Afghanistan, Bolivia, China or Ethiopia?
That's an Erik question.
I actually know this one.
It's Ethiopia, and actually, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia won the
Yes.
Nobel Peace Prize last year, and now he's doing atrocities within his own country. So the irony is not lost.
Right, and I mean, he sort of came to power and won that Peace Prize because he had put to bed all this internal fighting, and then
now he's using it as a cleansing methodology. It's amazing.
It is interesting, you know, things that people are worried about. Facebook user, you are the first person in to say Ethiopia. That's good. Oh no, I lied. Jared got in with Ethiopia before that. Jared, I had noticed your other comment about me, so I missed that one. However, thank you very much. It is, you know, it's an interesting thing because it is one of those things that you can get a guy who's peaceful, and then you get a taste of power, and suddenly anything he can do to stay in power, right? He's going to put down these people.
There's an old saying that the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you can be a peaceful, wonderful individual, but that does not mean that you're not going to create atrocity and wreak devastation and havoc all in your wake. And I think this is a perfect example of that.
It's something that's worth mentioning. Somebody can win a Nobel Peace Prize and less than 12 months later be engaged in wars of political purpose.
Yep.
Okay, so I just want to make note. We have, I think it's Joaquin Chavez. I'm not. He's from Bolivia, so he probably.
Hola, Joaquin. Bienvenido. That's the limit of my Spanish. Unless we go to a restaurant.
Just saying it would you know, Joaquin was. It's like, is that how he says it?
That's good stuff.
Spanish isn't very good, so.
All right, let's go to the next question. Which state? I don't even need to. Which state decriminalized the small amounts of cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamines?
We all know this one.
We talked about it before.
Oregon. And it's interesting because one of the fascinating things about Oregon, which you know, was in the first states to decriminalize cannabis or to legalize sales of cannabis. Does anybody know what state what the condition of the Oregon marijuana industry is in right now?
No.
Terrible. They're doing terribly. They have so much pot on hand that they just can't sell it all.
What a shame.
Exactly. Prices have fallen out. Well, what's crazy about it is they're not allowed to, because of federal restrictions, to ship it to California, right? To their bordering state. And you know, right, one of the most interesting things to me about the election was that Joe Biden got 5 million more votes than Donald Trump in California. That's an enormous amount of votes. But it means that there was, you know, about 16 million votes cast for president in California. Let's just assume that, you know, 10% of those people would be happy to buy weed from Oregon if they were allowed to. That would solve the crisis. But, you know, the battle for actual liberty around marijuana isn't over yet. You know, we see these localized gains, but it's still not legal to transport it across state lines to sell somewhere else. Yeah. All these sort of fiefdoms. And in fact, one of the things that we're finding out is that a lot of the legalization that's happened around marijuana is actually protectionism and cronyism to protect the people who use the laws to set themselves up in a sweetheart place.
Yeah.
Very frustrating. All right, next question. Madison Cawthorn was elected to North Carolina's 11th congressional district. What distinction does he hold, Erik?
He is the youngest Republican elected to Congress.
This is true. He is not. It's interesting that he's not the first QAnon supporter
That's what
elected to Congress, because
that
that was
like giant racist.
right.
Is that him?
Is it what?
Isn't he like also a giant racist, or am I thinking of the wrong person?
You're thinking of the wrong person.
Okay, sorry.
Well, no, I mean, it says that his victory in a solid conservative district followed a race that became unexpectedly competitive when he was accused of racism, sexual misconduct, and misrepresenting his personal story.
Okay.
Well, to be honest, there were people running on the Republican ticket in North Carolina that completely eclipsed him in their racism and sexism. But yes, he is a racist and sexist as well, but to a much lesser degree than some of the other Republicans running in the state.
You know, it's interesting you say that. I don't know if you guys watched Chappelle on Saturday Night Live. Excellent monologue in the beginning. But, you know, he has a fascinating thing that he says about racism. He's like, you know, the thing about racism in the South is that in the South, racism is just stewed to perfection. Nobody else gets it as good as they get it in the South. And so I always thought about that. I grew up in Texas, although I will tell you, Boston was the most racist town I ever lived in.
Oh, yeah.
It's astonishing. It is an intellectually justified or quote unquote intellectually justified racism of, you know, these people can't take care of themselves. They need us to come in and protect them, all that stuff. When in reality, it's just flat out racism.
It's so bad.
It really is. I recall very clearly, and this was actually a real epiphany for me too. So even though in Texas, where I grew up, Galveston Island, at the time, 40% white, 40% black, 20% Hispanic. So very diverse community. And so the racism that you saw was, you know, true idiots. But we were in Massachusetts one time going through the grocery store, long lines, Market Basket. Valerie's been there. The lines are ridiculous, but the prices are unbelievable. And while we're waiting in line, the cashier changes from a young girl to a young black man. And the guy in front of us, this old white guy, is like, yeah. And he gets out of line. He goes into another line. I'm like,
Oh my God.
Wow. And then I commented this to a friend of mine. He's like, Dan, every black person has an experience like that happen to them once a week. You know, maybe it's not that blatant, but it's a perch clutched or something else. He's like, that's just life in the, I'm like, all right, I will be more aware. Next question. Above is the new flag for which state? Speaking of racism, Arkansas, Mississippi, Louisiana, or Texas?
I heard Valerie said it already.
Mississippi?
Mississippi.
It is Mississippi. It is the Magnolia.
Speaking of racism.
Well, I mean, it's interesting, right? They're getting rid of the stars and bars.
Yeah.
But, you know, Mississippi is one of those states, too, that it's interesting because, you know, in many places where they have large African-American populations, they've done a better job of actually talking about the issues than places where they haven't. You know, we have a candidate, Libertarian candidate who ran in South Dakota. I don't want to mention his name and embarrass him, but he talked about the fact, he's like, you know, Black Lives Matter isn't an issue here because there are essentially no black people anywhere in the state. You know, you might see a person now and then, but just really nobody here. And I mean, Boston was not really like that, but the farther north you get, the less there is. So Mississippi, they at least confronted their issue. They have a new flag, replaced the Confederate battle emblem, and the magnolia flower, which is a beautiful flower. Number 6, California voters overwhelmingly approved Proposition 22. This is such a huge libertarian question. We're going to have a good conversation on this. This is a huge win for which groups? Gig companies, local government, school districts, Uber and Lyft drivers.
Well, immediately or long run?
Let's say immediately.
This is a trick question.
Kind of a trick question. Yeah, I mean, gig companies, I would say.
Yeah.
I agree that it's gig companies because it's actually Uber and Lyft drivers aren't necessarily the best winners of this. But I agree gig companies, and so it's interesting. Jared says Uber and Lyft drivers. Elizabeth Stump says Uber as well. But I think it's bigger, and I think it's the gig economy. So let's just see who's smarter, us or the audience. We're smarter than the audience. Yeah, because the Uber and Lyft still have some issues with this. They're not exempted in the same way that some of the gig economies are. And Newsom had carved out exemption for creative writers, creative people, essentially, so that it didn't apply to them, the laws against the gig economy and other things about it. But
the argument is that if you're an Uber or Lyft driver in California, you must be creatively driving. So,
I mean, I think we can get some Los Angeles people on here to testify that is creative driving. But it's interesting. So let's go into a little bit. Let's play a little devil's advocate here. Can somebody tell me the government's argument why they passed the law that Proposition 22 got rid of? Who wants to play statist?
Was it because of the minimum wage? Like, is that why? Because if you're doing a gig, you're accepting whatever payment that you negotiate. And so you're not getting maybe doesn't California have like a $15 minimum wage or something nuts? And also like maybe you're not paying the right taxes.
That's a lot of it. Yeah, it has to do with taxes. It has to do with
benefits and all that sort of stuff.
Health insurance
Or
and minimum wage. Go
California,
ahead, Eric.
like by the drove over this.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I have quite a few friends who are programmers or writers, and a lot of them have moved to Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, all over the country because they were really afraid that the original bill that Prop 22 basically overturned was going to destroy their livelihood. So, right. California has already lost tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of individuals over this.
Yep. And it's a fascinating thing because
over 1 million Californians. Yeah, there you go.
Exactly right. Thank you, Elizabeth, for those numbers. If AB 5, which was the law that had passed in California, essentially said that almost nobody could be considered a contractor anymore, which meant, and contractors benefit a company for a bunch of different reasons. Easiest one is that, if you're a company and you don't know what your business is going to look like let's say there's a global pandemic and you don't know what your employment needs are going to be, what your business is going to be like in 3 months, rather than hiring a new employee, it's easier to hire a contractor and say, I'm going to employ you as long as I can, but I can't guarantee you long-term employment. I'm not contributing to unemployment insurance on your behalf. You're a contractor in a situation. Now, libertarians, of course, think nobody signs a contract unless both people agree to it, right? Nobody is under duress. And so this scenario that was suddenly taken away where people could work, small jobs, right? Not be employees, but, work 2 hours, 4 hours, whatever, was suddenly taken away from people, real threat to their liberty. And it hurt the economy, and it makes no sense, which is why it's surprising to me that the California voters had enough sense to repeal it in the first place.
Well, I'll be honest, as a small business owner, if North Carolina ever decided to create a law like AB 5 in our state, I would be forced to lay off half of my employees because they're independent contractors, and I wouldn't be able to afford to keep them. So, AB 5 would be devastating no matter what state it's in.
And how many companies require employees to actually be physically present now, right? There's a lot of companies in which you say, maybe this person could work from home. Yeah. Maybe I'm going to hire somebody from South Carolina.
Right.
I had a job offer in New Jersey that required me to be there 1 day every 2 weeks. I'm happy to make that drive, right? That's not a big deal. I'm happy to live in a state that doesn't have New Jersey taxes, which are pretty crazy. Not that Maryland's wonderful, but all right, next.
Okay, I want to make a point. Can I make
Please.
a point?
Please.
Okay, sorry. So there is a comment from Shack Attack 85 who says, "Libertarians strong. We swing elections. One day Republicans and Democrats will wake up and see the power." I agree, but I also think that this points to something very important, and that's that we have to get better. Every election cycle, we have to get better and better, because once the Republicans and Democrats wake up, you know what happens? They start swinging back. And so we have to make sure that the candidates we run are stronger, that we have the resources in place to help those candidates. The time starts now. I mean, today is the first day of the 2022 election cycle.
And, for people who are watching this show, there's something you can do right now. Scrolling banner at the bottom, lp.org, join. It's a really simple thing. Becoming a member of the National Party, $5 a month or $25 a year is the basic entry. If you want to come in for more, we certainly will appreciate it. But we'll keep you up to date with all the stuff that's going on. And there's a lot of stuff that's going on. As Carol, I'm awesome and fabulous, will tell you, we need funds. We need your help. Bethany, we have a rock star tuned in. Bethany Valdez. Let me put everybody on the screen so we can all.
Yay.
Hey, Bethany, thank you so much.
Hey.
Bethany was one of our amazing candidates in Wyoming, inspirational to a lot of people across the country. I can tell you that at headquarters, I get emails saying, "Hey, how do I get in contact with Bethany?" And I'm like, well, you could contact her state party. That's probably the easiest way to do it, or go through her campaign website. I can't give out personal emails and phone numbers. But real rock star Bethany, we're very grateful to you for all the hard work.
And you're right, it was November 5th, but we're giving everybody a little bit of a chance to breathe. Today is the new first day of the 2022 election cycle.
Exactly. Right. And yeah, we give ourselves a little bit of, catch your breath. Well, I mean, right. Trump doesn't believe the elections are over yet.
Right.
So
we can just declare it, right?
Right, exactly. Well, if he can do it, we can do it too.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. Hey guys, keep bringing the comments on. All of us are reading the comments as they go through. Michael Shane Stacy, thank you so much for doing that. Also, outstanding Bears mask. Nick Foles is killing me this year. I just had to throw that in there. All right. Question number 7. A toddler was rescued from the rubble of her home on Monday, 65 hours after her apartment building collapsed during a devastating earthquake. The magnitude 7 earthquake caused death and injuries in which 2 countries? Albania and Croatia, Armenia and Turkey, Italy and Slovenia, or Turkey and Greece? I have no idea, and I am stunned that I didn't hear this.
Same. All we've heard is Trump throwing a temper tantrum. I haven't heard anything about an earthquake anywhere, and that's a big earthquake.
Yes.
Well, it affected 3 of the countries on the list, so I think there's 2 right answers.
Well, it's going to be, it says deaths and injuries in only 2 of the countries. We have 2 guesses. Jared came on and said Turkey and Greece. Carol said Armenia and Turkey.
And those are the 2 choices, because the 7.0 actually occurred right off the Bosporus and negatively impacted Armenia, Turkey, and Greece.
On the north side or the south side of the Bosporus? On the north side or the south side of the Bosporus?
I believe it was on the north side.
Well, then it's going to be Armenia and Turkey.
Well,
All right. Well, Jared, you were correct. We apologize. So I have to tell the story. You guys probably know this. Almost every culture has a great flood story in its history. There is a theory that the Black Sea was caused by a meteor impact, and it dug out this giant valley that people then settled in 20,000 years ago. And then the water from the Bosphorus eventually broke through. And so it started flooding into this giant valley that was dug out by the meteor strike. And so the story of the floods generate from these people who, like, they're sitting there and all of a sudden, they've been in this, for all you can tell, Black Sea is very large, this giant valley, and the water just keeps rising and rising and rising. And the one interesting thing about that is that 30 miles to the south of the shore of the Black Sea is Mount Ararat. So that's my useless trivia for the day.
Interesting.
Okay, here's a question. Oh,
Yep.
did you have one, Valerie?
Oh no, it's just my in Greece for our honeymoon.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm not going to pronounce this right. Carneal Cash Humphreys says, "What's the party's biggest goal after the election?" And I suppose that we're all going to have slightly different answers, but I'll answer. I mean, I think it's raising money and reloading. We have to be ready for the next time.
Yeah, I think that we had a lot of success. We had some places where we wish we'd done better. I mean, that's true for the old parties as well. But fundamentally, we know we can win. We have, I'll pull up the list later of some of the big wins that we had in the Libertarian Party. But, in addition to Marshall Burt getting elected, Kalish Morrow was elected city council in California. There's a guy who's a city commissioner in Florida named Jim Turney, who's so successful, he didn't even have an opponent for re-election. Libertarians are showing their strength, and we got to capitalize on that.
We have a city councilor in Gering, Nebraska, who has
Jim
run.
Backus, right?
Yeah, Ben
Backus. Sorry,
Ben Backus. Yeah, Ben ran and won unopposed this year for city council. I think he's got other plans coming up in a couple of years. So, but I'm not at liberty to say what they are. So,
no, that's very interesting. We like to see libertarians who get reelected because they're the people who understand what it takes to win an election. And that's another thing. If I were to say, what are some of our goals for the next year? It's to fully understand everything that was done right this year, because we won elections that we didn't think we were going to win. And, we lost some elections that we didn't think we were going to lose. Yeah. Understanding all that stuff, and we're so lucky we have two people, Paula Pizzell and Kara Schultz, who are what I would say, masters in election science. Brian makes a great point. We have to give a shout out to Wendy Hewitt, who was elected to city council in Calamasa, California, who is, of course, married to Jeff Hewitt, who's a member of the LNC as well. That's exactly right. That's why I said Jim Backus. Thank you so much, Matt, for understanding why there is that thing in the back of my head.
Well, I'm old too, and that was the first thing that when you said that, it's like, is that right?
That's funny. All right. So next question in the news quiz. Sean Connery, lovey, who founded international fame as Hollywood's original James Bond, went on to a long award-winning film career, died last weekend at age 90. Which Bond film was his last? Was it Diamonds Are Forever, Goldfinger, Never Say Never Again, or You Only Live Twice?
I think it was Never Say Never Again, but I'm not sure.
I think Laura's right.
I'm 100% sure that Laura is right.
Oh, there you go.
Because he actually said when he left the role that he would never play Bond again. Yeah. And so it's a play on that. Never Say Never Again was a remake of Thunderball, which he had been in originally. And so quite an interesting thing to come back. It's an interesting thing. Sean Connery had some controversial things about him. And, it's tough because sometimes we try to judge people in the past based on difficult standards. It is what it is. I'll always remember Sean Connery as the first Bond and
the best Bond.
Potentially the best Bond. It's interesting, he had been a model, but he also had worked in a funeral home. Only in Scotland do I think you do both of those jobs at the same time. Number 9, a train went careening over the end of elevated tracks in Netherlands on Monday. What stopped it from plummeting to the ground? Was it a crane, power lines, a tree, or a sculpture?
I saw this one. I can't believe it. It's a sculpture.
Valerie says it's a sculpture. It is a sculpture
job,
of a whale's tail.
Yeah, it looks like
Oh my
art.
God.
Oh, wow.
You guys see the picture? Let me blow that up.
Oh, I missed this news story
I
entirely.
saw the picture, and I don't remember where and when I saw the picture, but
Wheel tables, huh?
Man,
crazy.
that's pretty fortuitous.
Wow.
I am very impressed. Martin, who created the sculpture, said the image of the train car balancing on it looks like a work of art itself. It does.
Just leave it there. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I would leave the train if I could point out the Blue Oyster Cult line. History shows again and again how nature points out the folly of men. Anybody in the audience who can identify the song from that lyrics will give you 1 bonus point. Which member of the British royal family had the coronavirus earlier this year but kept it a secret? Was it Harry, Philip, William, or Elizabeth? Now, I'm pretty sure.
100 years old. If he had, he would have died.
Well, I mean, you say that, but the president got corona and didn't die.
But Prince Philip literally is, I think, about 100 years old. I mean, he's like
He
98
may
or
be.
something like that. Yeah.
Very old.
He and Elizabeth are roughly the same age. So I agree with you. It's neither of them. So then, is it Dreamboat Harry or Dreamboat William? And really, William's not a dreamboat.
No, he's not.
I think it's Harry. He's been in the States and traveling around. And
Oh, it was Prince William. Contracted COVID-19 in England in April, but kept his diagnosis a secret. The Duke of Cambridge likely to contract at the same time as his father, Prince Charles, but not reveal it for a fear of alarming the public. The Queen has not been ill, according to Buckingham Palace. I mean, this guy's hairline is pretty astonishing, considering.
He's my age.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So
There was one British publication that actually talked about his hairline and said it was receding faster than the British economy.
That's pretty funny. There is a person in my house who reads the Daily Mail on a regular basis, and it's not me. But I get a lot of reports on news of the royalty, and apparently there's a lot of unhappiness about the departure of Harry and Meghan. A lot of they're not doing their bit, the royal stuff, things like that. It's fascinating that they're still, it's still a big deal for them.
Mm-hmm.
Question number 11, the last question in our quiz. The International Space Station turns 20 this month. Which of the following events did not occur there? An astronaut invented a zero-gravity coffee cup. An astronaut performed David Bowie's Space Oddity. 2 astronauts arrived in a privately owned rocket. 2 astronauts were married. I happen to know that somebody did perform Space Oddity.
Yes.
Chris, I can't remember his name, he's Canadian, but when Bowie died, it was amazing.
Yep.
So it's not that one.
And 2 astronauts did arrive via privately owned rocket.
All right, so it's not this one. I like it. We're getting SAT strategy going on here.
There you go.
A zero-gravity coffee cup, I don't know how that would have to be invented.
Everyone
Isn't that just a travel mug?
Well,
I feel like 2 astronauts did get married.
we know that I'm a space junkie, so I do know the answer to this one.
Okay,
All right.
By process of elimination. Actually, it was talked about by the European Space Agency, actually just like 2 weeks ago, that nobody has ever gotten married in space.
Interesting. So somebody did invent a zero-gravity space cup?
Yep.
I mean, isn't that a sippy cup?
You have to remember that the U.S. government spent millions of dollars to invent a pen that writes in space when the Russians used the pencil.
Yes.
So, does a zero-G coffee cup really surprise you?
I guess not. I don't understand how it works, but the ISS, don't stick an extra I in there. It's just trouble. which orbits the Earth from 240 miles above. It has seen the invention of the zero gravity coffee cup. All right, I'm opening that in a new tab to save for later. But nobody has ever gotten. See, everybody's interested in the zero gravity cup. Oh, I see how it works like that. It's a sippy cup.
Yep.
Honestly, the standard for intellectual property is crazy. We had a lot of stuff, but Jay, sorry, thank you, Donna, but no, that's not it either. Your comments are coming in so fast, and please keep them coming. But it's hard for me to click on the right one. Jay said, "Cut government spending." Next question, which is the libertarian answer to any space station question. Because I mean, I'm one of those libertarians who, I would happily voluntarily give to a space program because
absolutely,
I do think that it's. A, we learn a tremendous amount from it. B, incredibly cool, but also, the potential of so many things lies in front of us.
So here's another thing. There is a company that is looking to build a space hotel, and Marriott has bought in on this idea. And to counteract it, Hilton is figuring out, can they attach a module to the International Space Station and help offset the international cost of the International Space Station by attaching a module to their existing space station. So now that rocketry, thanks to SpaceX and to various other startups that are coming online or will be online in the next couple of years, there's also Virgin Galactic. There is a real possibility of space tourism, and hotels will be needed. And it's a great way to maybe fund some of our scientific projects and platforms in space and have people come watch. I mean, millions of people go to Disney Epcot every single year for, the hydroponic labs and all the other scientific aspects. And now people potentially could go to a hotel and watch real science be going on. I think it'd be a phenomenal boon, not only for the hotel industry, space tourism, but also potentially funding a lot of our currently government-funded space science.
I love all those ideas. Now, we have a comment that is one of my favorite comments that we get. Can I suggest that we focus on winning at least in one state so we can set an example? Good news, Luis. We have done that. So let me show you right here. These are some of the wins that we had over the last election cycle. So aside from Marshall Burt, who was elected to State House in Wyoming, we had all these other people, and I'm going to put the address in the comments so everybody can see it. You guys can click on that and see it in your own browser. But we actually elected a lot of libertarians over the last cycle. And so, we hear a lot of, can we win an election locally? Well, as it turns out, we can. And what's really interesting about it is there's a name on here that I bet you nobody else knew beforehand. But we had a town judge, Susan Bell, reelected in Hagerstown, Indiana. Just so happens none of us knew that there was actually a libertarian elected judge, or at least I didn't. And if any of you guys did, I apologize for assuming that you did not. But more and more people are actually, as we have success at the local levels, and Donald Rainwater ran a very big, visible national campaign in Indiana. Oh, Jared Hall says he might have known.
Jared Hall is just amazing. He knows all of these things.
He knows all of these things. Jared, I swear I didn't. 8:49. I'm trying to look at the time frame. But we do. We run and we compete, and we're in a lot of elections. But one of the things that we need in order to do better in elections is
Money.
Carol's got it. Volunteers. You know,
Volunteers and money.
volunteers and money. You know, we do shows like this, not just because we like to talk amongst ourselves, but actually we do it because we want to talk to you guys, the people who are, you know, the blood, sweat, and tears of the Libertarian Party, the volunteers, the people who get out there and run for office, support people running for office, who advocate for libertarian positions. You can do more as a libertarian going to a PTA meeting than a lot of people do just sitting around in front of a computer talking about stuff. You can do more as a libertarian when you say, you know, maybe we don't need a law against plastic bags. Maybe we could just ask people to be smart and conserve. Those are a lot of things that people can do in a very simple way. So getting information as a libertarian out there, getting involved, becoming a volunteer, look at that link on the bottom. Join us, lp.org/join. Those things all make a big difference for us. So, yes, please.
Well, there's a comment here on the in the comment section from, I don't know how to pronounce it, Linesh Kumar,
Yep.
who says, okay, I lost it now. It scrolled. It was the one that said, oh, here we go. Please, party leaders, nudge Biden to add Dr. Jorgensen or another libertarian to his cabinet. And I think we should talk about that for just a minute, because while it's a great idea, the problem is that with either of the parties, unless you've got somebody who is libertarian leaning already, members of the cabinet serve at the pleasure of the president, and they are expected to implement the president's agenda. So having having a cabinet member who is a libertarian is probably not going to be all that beneficial. And the libertarian, if they are true to themselves, would have to get up and leave after about 5 minutes. So you know, I mean, it's a great idea. It's a great idea, and if we had a president who was friendly to the ideas, and you know, if you put, I don't know where, if you put them someplace where they could actually do something libertarian, that would be awesome. But I think it's unlikely, and so I mean, I wanted to address that because you know, for one thing, we don't have any influence with Joe Biden and his campaign.
Right.
But even beyond that, it would be an uncomfortable place for most libertarians to be. Now, had Joe Jorgensen won, I would have been applying to go someplace and, you know, cut something. So.
Yep. No, I was I had already called dibs on ambassador to New Zealand. You know, it's an interesting thing about being in government. There was a libertarian who had served in one of the highest offices in an extremely blue state, and the legislature had the power to override his veto no matter what he did. And one of the things that he said is that when you're in a situation like that, it's like you're in a canoe that's going down river, and it's a raging rapid. And no matter what you can do, there's no way to paddle the canoe back up the river. Mm-hmm. But maybe occasionally you can stick the paddle in and steer it a little bit to the right. And, you know, obviously we don't believe in the right-left dichotomy, but it's an interesting thing. You know, Marshall Burt is elected libertarian in Wyoming. He is one of, I don't know how many people in the Wyoming legislature, but let's just say
69, I think, or 68 or something like that. Yeah.
All right. So chances are pretty good he is not going to unilaterally get something passed. He's going to have to work with Republicans and Democrats. And in many ways, for libertarians, that's an important thing for us to model, because Republicans and Democrats have completely forgotten how to work with each other.
Yeah.
So we get to be the ones who say, you know, this issue, maybe it's not a right issue, maybe it's not a left issue, maybe it's a liberty issue. And so libertarians can get a lot of progress modeling stuff like that, getting elected, but also just showing in small things. You know, I closed the, oh no, I didn't. Let me show this again.
I mean, it's like Congressman Amash getting that tripartisan qualified immunity bill ready, and then nobody's doing anything about it. So, you know, hopefully that doesn't happen in Wyoming State House, where they get a tripartisan bill sponsored and no one votes on it.
You can do it. I mean, one libertarian in a legislature can make a lot of difference. Because because in my instance anyhow, the Republicans said, yeah, that's what you always were, but they knew that I would work with them, and the Democrats knew that I wasn't a Republican anymore, and they liked that, and so they were willing to work with me. And so you find companionship in strange places, and if you get one or two, that's what we should be looking for in this country. We should be looking for a couple of legislators in every house of the in every state, and see what kind of difference they can make in terms of building bridges.
Yeah, be reasonable people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, work with people, listen to them.
That's one of the really interesting things that Commissioner Hewitt, Jeff Hewitt, who's county commissioner in Riverside and is one of 5 commissioners, but he talks about the fact that he is often approached by people who want him to vote on this way or that way or the other thing, and little people asking Valerie to run for Senate.
No, take it down.
On the other hand, when you're in that situation, you get to ask for more liberty. You get to show people that you're not crazy, that, but that there are things that you think are wins for liberty. We're probably not going to get, right, even minarchy in one election. And so figuring out what is the way to get there, what are the things that we can show people, because, I'm not going to say a lot of wonderful, great things about Harry Truman, but one of the things that he talked about was that, he was from the show me state. He wanted people to bring him working examples, and then he would give them consideration, as opposed to, saying, oh, well, I got this great idea for a bill, let's just pass it. As opposed to, the Speaker of the House, we have to pass the bill to see what's in it.
Right.
He said, show me working examples. Libertarians can do that. We can show people examples all the time of entrepreneurism, of getting government out of the way, making a big difference. And, that's one of those things that comes back to everyone who's watching this show, finding the little things that you guys can do to make the world a little more free, where you get to advocate for freedom, and not just, freedom for yourself. When you advocate for freedom for somebody else,
Yes.
that's just as important. Dr. King put it best when he said, a battle against injustice anywhere is a battle for justice everywhere. That's what we got to do. We got to be advocating for liberty. All right, we are getting to the end of our show. Anything exciting you guys want to talk about? Anything coming up? Big deal. What's happening in the next week for you, Erik? Anything exciting?
In the next week, it's just going to be a lot more talking with candidates. There's going to be working with the North Carolina party. There's going to be working on the chair advisory committees. There's just going to be, it's a nonstop activity, but a lot of it is a little bit more behind the scenes this next week. So it's a little different.
Right. And for the at-large members, we all have a meeting coming up soon, right? Dr. Ebke?
Yes.
It's December 3rd or something like that weekend.
5th and 6th, I think.
Okay, 5th and 6th. Well, it's in,
Yep.
I leave on the 4th, I guess. So that it's going to be out in Riverside, California, and looking forward to that.
I am looking forward to it. I'm going to be super safe and respectful, and following Dr. Ebke's lead. I'm actually going to get a rapid COVID test the day before I go, because I live in a state that's having a high incident, and so I want to express my respect for everybody there, get a test before I go. Now, it's going to be an exciting LNC meeting too, right?
Budget
Valerie?
meeting, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Valerie, what have you heard about budget meetings?
I heard that it's going to be a crazy good time, and it's going to be the best meeting of the term.
It is. It's the exciting thing, right? Because the budget is, people want to talk about the direction that they're going in. So for, again, people who are watching on the show, now is a great time to find out who your regional representative is, and reach out to them and say, these are some of the things that I think we should be doing going forward in the future. We're lucky right now. We have a party that we have the ability to contact our representatives to know who they actually are, and have an influence on them. So you can do that. Booze will be provided by some people. I personally am hoping that people who are coming to this thing in California have medical cards, or California has recreational, don't they?
Yeah,
I think so. So I was very excited. So interestingly enough, marijuana won every state where it was on the ballot in 2020. So in all the time that marijuana has been on the ballot, the only time it's been defeated is in Ohio, when the bill that was passed, or the bill that was proposed, was hugely commercial. We talked about it earlier about the problems with big cannabis and how it's really cronyism. But I was very disappointed to find out that New Jersey, although they legalized and allowed recreational sales, is not planning to have any stores open for 2 years. Thanks, government. However, I will be able to buy in California, so I'm excited about that.
big fan.
Well, listen, it's a budget meeting. 5 milligram edible. Nobody's incapacitated,
Right.
but we're all a little more willing to compromise.
A little less.
Just set them out on plates on the table for us, right?
This seems like a good plan. There is no such thing as a more libertarian meeting. That being said, we all take our responsibilities to all of you very seriously. We'll have a couple more shows before the LNC meeting, the budget meeting, and
But
then
not
that'll
on
be
Thanksgiving.
exactly.
Not on
We're
Thanksgiving.
not doing anything on Thanksgiving. So
No.
next week is the week before Thanksgiving. We will do an LPTV show. The week after that, we'll be showing reruns.
Highlight reel.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, we'll put up a clip of the best moments.
Do
So
we
that
actually
being said,
have best moments?
the best moments of Libertarians at Large in our 6 shows
Oh, boy.
so far.
20 minutes.
Right. I don't think we have anything crazy, but there's Photoshop. All right. Thank you guys for so much. I promise you, those of you who are asking, we are going to get more of the at-large libertarians on the show. We're working very hard. Richard Longstreth really wants to be here. Joshua Smith has been working really hard, hours, stuff like that. Those guys have expressed interest. We're going to get everybody into the show at one point in time. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to Libertarians at Large. If you have any questions, let us know in the comments. We all go back and read the comments after the show, and we reply to them and stuff like that. So thanks, guys, and say goodnight, Gracie.
Right, Gracie?